Alrighty, guys, let's get started then. And people jump in as they get time. And by the way, this is open to everyone. So people on Facebook are joining in, from IG are joining in. All right, so let me do an introduction. So about 3, 4 years ago, through mutual friends in situations, I met Joe Kelly. Um, from day one, he's been like an inspiration for me. At that time, when I met you, you only had one son with Marissa, and then your second two weren't there yet at that time. And honestly, I never knew your story. I never knew the full story, and that was kind of like, not kind of hesitant to ask um, until the press release started coming out for your book, and I'm like, oh shoot, that's what's happened. Joe, welcome, Joe Kelly, and More Homes interview on Wednesday. We are really grateful for having you. Let's talk about your past. So where are you from, my friend?
So I'm from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and I know we met 3 or 4 years ago, but I also had two daughters from a previous marriage. So I had daughters. Yeah, they're now 18 and 16 years old. They live with their mom in Mashpee, where I'm originally from. And then when I eventually made my way down here, me and my wife now, we have three. So I have five total. So if you see the back, all dedication.
Yeah, so I read that in your book press release that you have two. I did a lot of research on you, man. I'm ready for this, bro. I'm like Joe Rogan today.
Yeah.
So two daughters from pre. How old are you, Joe?
I am 46 years old. And the only reason I remember that is I got asked that a lot last night at the book launch. And sometimes you're like, how old am I? But I'm 46. I'll be 47 in January.
Well, to just give you some feedback, you look great. I think it was Edison we were talking about the other night. He goes, man, you look like a UFC fighter. So you probably get that quite a bit.
Well, some of the things that I've been through in my life, I'll take that, because it's been a fight.
Yeah, you're a fighter. Let's get started, man. So where were you? So you're born in up north, right? Northeast. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. So I was the big fish in a little pond. Very athletically gifted. Played baseball, basketball, and football. Football and baseball were my two number one sports. Ended up going to college on a scholarship. Life was great, and my athletic ability took me a long way in life. And when I went to college, I dropped baseball. I played football. That's where my heart was. Married my college sweetheart. Got out of school. Worked for the Department of Social Services. Now they call it DCF, for about a year before I got into the police academy, working with troubled youth and truancy and stuff. And I've always been when I got out of college, I wanted to do something where, now I'm a washed up athlete, so to speak. And I always wanted to be active. Never wanted to sit behind a desk or anything like that. And Massachusetts, a lot different than Florida, where I am now, where I know a little bit more. Massachusetts is a very blue collar state. It was a union job. When I got on the police force, I thought I had arrived. I always wanted to be a police officer from the time I was a little kid. My whole family are all firemen. My uncle is the only other police officer. The big joke was, Joe, you took a right instead of a left. So it was a dream of mine, and I had captured that. And before I went to the police academy, I had to have surgery on my knee from wear and tear from the turf playing football. And, I had that surgery that prescribed me, pain pills. I probably abused those pain pills then, right? I took them. I had a couple of beers here and there. But when that bottle was gone, it was gone. It was done. And I began my life. They told me 9 years later, I'd probably have to have a surgery again. And, quite frankly, like 9 years later, I twisted my knee. Wrestling with somebody at work. I went up through the ranks quick. By this time in my life, being a police officer and the demands of that job on your marriage and everything else was a lot. I lived in my uniform to provide for my family. And being a police officer and being on the, emergency response team and all that, at that time in my life, I saw a lot of things that normal people don't see.
I want to unpack that. So I'm going to go back a few steps. So
Sure.
Your family belongs to firefighters and police, correct?
Yes.
So they do the DNA.
Yeah, all of them, all in the helping field in terms of first responders, whether it was a nurse, a fireman, or a police officer,
That's
and
awesome.
levels. So
Okay, so you saw that growing up, your psyche was being developed as a young boy, growing up, and a teenager, and a young male. All right, so you joined the force, and I read a little bit about your background that you saw a lot of crazy stuff. We don't want to get into that. Um, your wife at that time, was she supportive? Was she not so supportive? How did that whole situation play with you?
very supportive. She was actually a nurse. Go
Okay.
figure.
Okay.
And ended up, we put her through school. She got her nurse practitioner, and she did well for herself.
Awesome.
So growing up, I mean, my kids growing up in that household, I was more of the caretaker because I worked night. My wife at the time days, so it was long shifts. Her mother would help out with watching them so I could get a little bit of sleep, but it was a lot. I mean, she'd work during the days. I was up, making, breakfast and getting them ready for school when it was that time. But when they were the early days, it was just me. Her parents would help out, or my parents would help out when they could. But, and that's, I think, the dividing. She worked days, I worked nights. So that relationship started, to go in a different direction as well.
Joe, tell me what time frame is this? The 90s?
So this is 2001 to 2009.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, about 90. Where I graduated college in 99. So 1999 to 2009.
Okay. So pain pills, the opiates, they were pretty new to the market at that time. I mean, it wasn't well-known fact, right? If you take one, God forbid you take one now, anyone, by the way, this is for everyone here listening. Um, I had a history with some pain pills back in my time. You go to a dentist, you go have a surgery, they give you pain pills. Be careful because these things are deadly. We're gonna get into that, how they can really mess up your life, and not many people get out of it. So make a point to yourself to opt out of using narcotics for pain and whatever. So Joe, you hurt yourself. You got your first bottle. What medication did they give you?
The first thing they ever gave me was Percocet.
Wow.
Yeah. I was given Percocet, and you got to understand, like, the mental piece behind that. Before we even talk about like taking a pain pill, you got to understand my mental state. I mean, the things that I saw, the things that I was going through, my marriage, the stress from work. Here was all these different things that, and the things that I saw that normal human beings don't see, that I should have been talking about to other people. But
Counseling.
understand, we're trained, to give the help, not ask for the help. We see things that would be alarming to other people. We don't talk about those things. It's just we move on to the next call. So a lot of stuff that was going on inside of me, you know, I wasn't talking about it. I was just stuffing it and stuffing it and stuffing it. You know, and when I took that first pill, and here's a pill the size of my pinky. You know what I mean? I take that first pill. For me, I took it at first, to feel better. Then I took more and more because I was never somebody that would sit on a couch and just get better. I took more and more. My mentality was to get back to work faster, to do the things that I wanted to do, but subconsciously, while I was doing that, that medication was blocking out or numbing the feelings I was having inside of the things that I was seeing, the stress, the marital issues. It was really, making me feel better on the inside, not just the out. So in the progression of that is unbelievable. And because of that first bottle of pills went away very quickly. And because of my status in the community and
Okay.
who I was,
Yeah.
I'd go to the doctor. Hey, I'm out of this. I'm still in pain. That's the first progression. Is I was still in physical pain. They give me more, but they give me something stronger. And this is back in the day of, like, Perk 30s and Oxycontin and all that. I mean, I was put on, medication that I had no business being on.
Absolutely not.
And the progression of that is so severe because there was red flags that were like popping up, but they didn't give me a bottle of pills back then and say, hey, be careful how you take these or how many that you take. That was never a discussion. It was just, here, you're in pain, here you go.
Yeah.
And because of who I was, there was no ever any questions around that either.
No one said no to you, right? I mean, you're this top cop and local top cop, the hero. Let's just
Right.
say it, right? Let's be honest, and was from a good family, right? A good pedigree, right? And top cop asking you for some pain pills back then. By the way, not many. Not I think the doctors always knew, but I don't think the regular folk knew, right?
Right.
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 And by the way, Joe, I'm going to touch on something else. Back then, you're saying that you had no one to talk to. I mean, I don't think counseling was pushed as much as it is now. Mental health. You're in the field. I'll get into what you do now, but the mental health thing, it's so much bigger and available now as it was like 20 years ago. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, even today, KB, as much information we have and as many stories that are out there, you got to understand that in that profession, for us to seek help,
Oh yeah.
there was available. There's EAPs, this and that. I go, but mostly it's within the department or within the organization. So for me to, in my mind back then, and I'm sure in a lot of first responders' mind, for me to seek help about something is being stigmatized by other guys that are there.
Yeah,
You mean
100%.
there and opening up and saying how I truly felt. A guy that oversees that I may have to back up. Maybe like, I don't know, this guy has got all this stuff going on. He's carrying a gun. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that prevent us from coming out and asking, fear of stigma of not being promoted, fear of what other guys on the department are going to say. You know what I mean? In terms of that guy mentality and how we're taught as men growing up. A lot of us men, we mask a lot of sadness with anger. We don't want to show that stuff.
Yeah.
And back then, I'm not the man I am today, where I know that, sharing that stuff and being open and being honest and being vulnerable actually might help somebody else.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And, it's just a lot of that mentality back then I didn't have. And I was worried about those stigmas. I was worried about, how I was going to look to other guys. I was going to worry about how I looked to my wife, So that was the mental attitude that I had. But that progression of, where it flipped from just taking pills and then I don't have any pills. When I was on the pills, I was Father of the Year. Right. But the withdrawal effect of that, after you're done taking that, all of a sudden you took that away. I felt worse than I ever felt in my life, not just physically from the physical withdrawals, but all that numbing that that medication was doing. Before I even took it, I felt bad. But now I took a deep dive into even feeling even worse about everything. Now I didn't have that crutch there to support the internal stuff.
And
so you can imagine, yeah.
So team, here, this is a good point. What he's talking about is a cycle, right? And he stopped taking them. He's is not numb anymore. He's feeling everything and much more stuff added to it. So what do you think? What do you think he's gonna do, right? You go back and start taking more. Joe, your wife, she knew it that you're doing pills?
Not at all. And as you can imagine, with doing a lot of that stuff and then going to the doctors and them giving me everything back then, that all stuff worked to a certain point until insurance red flagged me, which they'll red flag you a lot easier today. But back then, you had to go through a lot for them to say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here?
What are you doing?
And they stopped, and I couldn't get it from the insurance company anymore or get prescribed it because I'd go through them so quickly and you can only have a month's supply or whatever they prescribe. They're like, hold on a minute. You can't fill this prescription until, the 15th, and it'd be the 1st. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't get through the next 24 hours. Never mind wait 14 days.
That's
I
crazy.
like this.
Wow. I mean, I'm trying to visualize your past, man. You're top cop, local area, small area. It's not a big city, right? I mean, it's not New York City, right?
No.
It's regular, yeah. Everyone knows each other probably, and here's you're like, wow, like it's like, okay. With that being said, um, how long did the addiction go for until things went
It
south?
went it went for a while because, like you said, with my wife and not knowing, it is basically when the doctors shut me off. I had to, you know, I didn't want to feel how I was feeling, so I had to get it from other people. And I am a police officer, the shame and the guilt, and I know what I'm doing isn't right, but I know that I can't do my job. I can't be a dad. I can't do this without, having that stuff. So I reached out to friends that I had trusted. At first it was, hey, my knee hurts, and they'd give me some they had left over from the medicine cabinet. And then it got even more into, people that I knew had some. Um, and then it began where I started buying them from people that I knew from high school, or from people that I knew personally, that I knew wasn't gonna throw my business out there. And then when that started coming out, here comes the dishonesty of lying to my wife. Where we share a bank account. Now there needs to be money that's actually paid for these things, and the stuff wasn't cheap. And here was my rationale. Well, I am a police officer, bulletproof vests, you know, boots, all these different types of stuff. That stuff's expensive, right? So I would say, oh, I need a new vest, or I need this, or I need that. Well, 3 months later, I'm still wearing the same raggedy old shit. Excuse my language, right?
Yeah,
But I'm
you
fulfilling
curse.
my
Yeah,
wife's looking at the bank account. Where's all this money going? And it was one lie after another lie after another lie, just to protect, you know, what I was doing. And for me, it wasn't about getting high. It was about feeling normal, so I could perform on a daily basis. So that's where the progression went with my wife. And obviously, as we move forward, the chief of police and some of the people within the department, there was a guy who I had heard that I was getting some pills off of somebody that he knew, right?
okay.
He had got pinched, and this is where the tires met the road. Was the chief sat me down and said, hey, we got a guy who is stating that you're doing this and that. And my first reaction was, he's got nothing to stand on. I've covered all my tracks. That's all BS. He's like, Joe, and the chief of police at the time was a really good friend of mine. So he said to me, he's like, Joe, if you got some issues, we'll get you some help.
Yeah, I read
We'll
that. Yeah,
out. The
yeah.
only thing that the only thing I heard, friend or not, because of his position, was tell me everything you know so I can fire your ass. That's
Wow.
all
Yeah.
the fear, the guilt, everything, like the thought of loss of everything I've worked to up to that point. And unfortunately, little did I know at the time I was about to lose everything anyway. And
Wow.
resigned from that job. I resigned from that job. I told my wife, I go, I can't deal with these people of the department. I'd make up some things, and that's when everything fell apart. It all fell apart there. My wife found out about everything. My family found out about everything. I decided after like 30 days of leaving there, I would go into detox for the first time. And here's the thing, the first detox I ever walked into, the lady knew who I was. And she's like, are you sure you want to be here? And maybe she was worried about confrontation inside the detox with somebody I would have run into or arrested in the past, this and that. But I no longer had that job. So here, my whole identity as a person that I've worked
Stripped.
my life for is gone.
It's
I
gone.
said, it doesn't matter. I don't have that job. While I was there, my wife served me with a restraining order, took my kids, emptied our bank accounts, and probably rightfully so at the
Yeah.
time. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But here you go, I'm at the lowest position of my life. The only thing that I have left of my life, my wife and my kids, and now that's gone.
Wow.
Oh, my
Wow.
mental capacity. Now here's what I can do. I can either get my shit together, or I can do what I did. And I got angry and I'm like, I'll show you. And in the end, I only showed myself, and the next year of my life was complete and utter destruction.
So hold it right there, Joe, 1 second. So I think many of us in on this Zoom today we have had low points. I know Edison shares his story all the time. I've shared my story, my stroke, the lowest point of my life. And everyone has a low point. Um, I want to now from this point on, everyone pay close attention. This is where the comeback comes in, right? This is where things get real tough. Um, and this happens in life. It happens in different ways. We get divorced, we get sick, a spouse gets sick, you get sick, companies go under, markets change, things happen in life, but we don't give up. So, all right, so Joe, continue. So things are bad. The worst is the worst, right?
Yeah. So the worst. At that point in my life, I thought that things couldn't get worse than they were, than they were at the time. And here's my thing: identity gone, wife gone, everything gone. And here I am in detox for the first time in my life. I've never talked about anything that I did. I'd never been open about anything, all that guilt, the shame. And now I'm angry. And as a guy, I had like this empty thing in my chest. My heart was completely broke. I needed someone. And what I did was I latched on to the first pretty face that I saw in there, because here was a girl that was saying, hey, I'm here for you. I get it. And mentally, I was a mess. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel cared for. I just needed somebody to say, hey, Joe, it's going to be okay. You
Yeah.
know, and unfortunately, obviously being in a detox and running into, somebody in there, I needed anybody to give me acceptance, to love me and to be there for me. And I latched on, to the wrong person. Somebody else that was struggling to get their own life. And she was a lot further along. And I went on a run with this girl for about 8 months. And probably I still had some finances in terms of credit and some other things. And she probably latched on to me for that. I latched on for her because I needed somebody. Do you know what I mean? And it was probably the worst year of my life, where when that money was gone, I did that like anyone else had to do to get what they needed, because my addiction had progressed, from taking pills to Percocet to Perc 30s to Oxycontin. And unfortunately, my story ended in the end with shooting heroin. You know what I mean? Which is absolutely bizarre if you think about who I was, how I was raised, and what I went through. But when I got to a point where there was no money, my big thought was, hey, we'll get a bunch of stuff, we'll give it to other people to support our habit. It was like a monkey selling bananas. You know what I mean? There was never enough. In the end, my door got kicked in. I was living with this girl from detox. My day-to-day activities were waking up, finding out how I could get more. And, most of the time was praying that I wouldn't wake up the next day. You know what I mean? I say a lot of my mentality through all those losses that I occurred, was I didn't want to live anymore, but I didn't have, the stomach to do it myself. I was just hoping that I wouldn't have to wake up the next day to have to do everything that I had to do to get what I needed, and it was terrible. And then not to mention when my door got kicked in, this is when everything went across the front page of the paper. So again, I thought I was at the lowest point of my life. Now I made headlines across Massachusetts. Everyone, my secret was out. Everyone that had known me as this athletic star, as this police officer, and going up through the ranks very quickly. Now everything was through the paper. It was a police officer busted, drug charges, all this nasty stuff. And there was even stuff said that I didn't do. And I was like, please don't say that. I've done enough wreckage of my own. Do you know what I mean? It was It was bad. And I got charged with trafficking because I got caught with 300 and something Oxycontin, you know what I mean, which is the weight in Massachusetts for trafficking. And even during that time, here's the sickest part of the whole story in terms of the bad part before we get into who I am today and
Right,
how
right,
I
right.
is even then, after getting my door kicked in, when I got released on personal recognizance, I went back out and kept doing what I was doing because I was on a mission to die. I really was. I was like,
Wow.
there's no coming back. You know, I thought there was no coming back when I lost my wife and my kids. I thought there was no coming back, when I was using as much as I can. And now everything through the paper, I'm like, oh, there's definitely no coming back from this. So the progression of not wanting to live and not thinking I'd live to deal with the consequences of my actions. I mean, it just took me over.
Wow. Heroin, cops knocking your door down. You're probably thinking you probably think that, man, that's just me. I used to do that to people, right? And now the roles are reversed. And how quickly times can change for a person. I mean, that's heavy, man.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay, so what year was this now that the article came in the paper?
All 2009. 2009 was the worst year of my life. Worst
Wow.
year. And every time I went back in court for that trafficking charge, I had 10 other charges that would pop up for credit card fraud,
God.
or stealing credit cards. All of my 52 charges within 2009 were all nonviolent criminal offenses, all in order to pay for my drug habit. And it was insane. And finally, the judge in court, they indicted me, and the judge said to me, I don't know how you've been on the street for so long, but I'm holding you. And he gave me like a $10,000 bail. And back then, I didn't have $10,000. I had blown through everything. I was living in my car, with this girl, not wanting to wake up the next day. And there was nobody, even if they had $10,000, that was putting it on me to bail me out.
No way. You can't
So
blame them. Yeah.
yeah, so they held me, and here I am, a police officer, 7-8 months removed, going to prison. And you can imagine, what that was like. And here was my same thought, is going in, they wanted to PC me because of who I was, and they sent me, away from my area. But I signed out of being PC because I didn't want to be put in with pedophiles and stuff like that, because that's where people go that are PC'd. And then also it was the same mindset. I didn't want to live. So I'm like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I walked in and I scanned the block, and it was just embarrassing going to court all those times, being in front of my peers, where I used to testify as a police officer, being dragged in handcuffs to the back of the van, into the courthouse. I had reporters trying to jump out from behind trees, trying to interview me.
Wow.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Genesis? Yeah, it's fine. So
So
you had reporters who jumping on the trees to interview
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Wow. It's a star of fall from grace.
Fast forward to that, I survived prison, and obviously you can read a lot about that in my book. How I did that, surrounded myself with the best people I could. But prison was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, unfortunately, because what prison gave me was time I was unwilling to give myself. It may not work for other people, but here I am. I woke up in a jail cell, probably 4 days later, and I had some clarity. And I'm like, how the F did I get here? How did this happen? And I started to work on myself. I joined the drug block. For the first time in my life, I couldn't manipulate my way out. You know what I mean? And use my status or anything else. I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I worked on myself the best I can. And somewhere in there, my mind shifted. where I stopped playing the victim and pointing the blame at everybody else. And I started to say, instead of why me, why not me? Maybe I'm going through this so my kids never have to go through it.
Accountability. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I really worked on myself. And when I got out, I was paroled after 19 months. I finished parole. I had to get a job, doing things that I didn't want to do, that I was landscaping and people were gracious enough to give me a job, but I would hide behind trees when cruises would go by because I felt so guilty and ashamed of, for me, how far I had fallen. Not that I think that anything's wrong with landscape.
No, of course not. Yeah.
The fact that who I was and what I thought and what my beliefs were at the time. And then fast forward, I put together 3 years, and then my cousin died in front of me in a boating accident. I relapsed for a week. And this relapse, I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't accrue any charges or anything else, but it was a spiritual bottom that I'd never felt. And I could never escape my past in Massachusetts. Even now as a convicted felon, law enforcement was out the window. Anywhere I went, because of my athletic ability and all the stuff in the paper, I could never get anything that was worthwhile to me in terms of employment. I worked at a detox. I went through the motions there. I loved helping people. But after that relapse, I had a friend that lived in Florida, and I moved down to Florida, to get my feet under me, to work on myself. It was the best move I ever made in my life. No one knew me here. It was a fresh start. Still had all that wreckage and damage. But while I was in Florida, I worked on that stuff. I worked on myself. And that's where I met my current wife, who was a doctor of psychology. Dr. Maritza is a Gary Kelly now. And it's funny how things go, because I didn't date anybody in Florida for the first year I was here. I worked on me. I was probably financially, at the worst situation of my life. But after that year, I felt so whole about myself in terms of my mindset, my physical strength, in terms of what I wanted to do. And when I met my wife, she changed my life. She changed my life in a lot of different ways, because I wasn't dependent on her, but I was very attracted to her. Here was a girl I really wanted to meet, and I wanted to be out. But
for the record, team, she's beautiful. I mean, she just inside out. This woman is a boss lady. I've met her a few times. I attended her lectures. She does amazing lectures. Back in the day, she did at least. And this woman, I mean, you needed someone like that, Joe. Looking back now and you're hearing your story, you perfect, a soulmate. But go ahead, continue.
But you know what? She saw something in me I didn't see in myself.
Yeah.
And I hold on her because I needed anything from her. We just enjoyed each other's company, and she sets the bar very high. But she was a lot of different things: meditation, A Course in Miracles, Reiki, NLP, and to be honest, quite honest with you, she'd invite me to some of these things, and I went initially just because I wanted to be near her.
Yeah.
Right? I just wanted to be near her.
Yeah.
And it's funny how God works, because when I went to some of these things, it was so eye-opening to me, and I was open to it, and it changed everything for me. There's a lot of different things. Check my ego, check who I was in the past. Those are things, I don't care how pretty or how much I was there, I wouldn't do those things.
Yeah.
But I was finally at a position in my life where I'm like, something's got to change. I have to change. And I jumped into a lot of those different modalities, and I loved it. And it started to make me a better person, and it started to work. And then we both went and got trained, became practitioners in NLP, hypnosis, time techniques, EFT, and life coaching. And then we went from practitioner to master practice. I got hooked on it and learning about myself and how to help other people in different ways. And then I became a trainer in it, and it changed my life. But more than anything, not only did it help me and give me tools to work with other people, whether they're high executive CEOs or there's somebody who's first starting out, it helped change who I was on the inside. It helped heal things that I had been struggling for years. And I didn't have to sit on a couch and talk to a therapist for 3 months. You mean, I'm talking about different modalities that changed my thought process within 5 minutes. And I'm always a skeptical guy. I've always been. But when I went through this, I had aha moments, and I'm like, I want more of this. I want more of this. And it was work that I did on myself, which now today we transition to helping a lot of other people with that, whether that's high executive CEOs who are trying to improve their bottom line in terms of revenue, or it's working with somebody who's in recovery. You mean, that wants to change their life. And it all
Wow.
starts with us. Because I said this, I could have carried around, this little pity box, and it would have never changed anything in my life.
Nothing.
But I started to be at cause instead of effect.
Whoa, stop. Well, that's heavy. Say it again.
I started to be at cause instead of effect.
Wow. Unpack that.
Yeah, to be at cause in anything in your life, no matter what traumatic event that it may be, whether it's an argument with your significant other, whether it's a loss of a job, a divorce, whatever it is, we all play a little part in every situation in our life, regardless of how much it is. It is very powerful and very rewarding to own cause on something, because that's what you can control. When you blame other people, when you point the finger, that's nothing you can control. Take control of the things that you can take control in your life, because that's what's going to make the difference. I could sit here and talk about all my war stories and this and that. I tell everyone all the time, I'll listen to your story once. After that, I don't want to hear it. I want to talk about the solution.
Yeah.
And that's what my book's about. Yeah, we could talk about all that past stuff, but I want to talk about what we're going to do about it. Here I am. I say it doesn't matter if you're from Yale or jail. If we're talking about, substance use or mental health, it affects everybody. And if it's not affecting you, somebody who it's affected.
You're right. That's
Big
true.
thing. But this book right here wasn't written just for people that have substance use issues. It was written for the fallen leader. It was written for the divorcee, the bankrupt professional. It's a GPS system, for somebody who's being challenged in life. And I always say, somebody took the same situation that you're complaining about, and it don't matter what it is, how far bad you went, or where, if it's just a little bit, and they took that same situation and they won with it.
Yeah.
What was that old saying, KB? It's like, somebody said running the 6-minute mile was impossible at one point until it was done.
Yes.
And then how many people broke that after that? Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
It's being the beacon of hope for people. I'm a convicted felon, right? I'm a convicted felon who had one bad year out of his life. I'm 47 years old. I refuse to let that be a life sentence. I don't care what society says. I don't care what this person says, right? Yes, or there are a lot of things stacked against me because how society is with felons, this and that. Of course there is, but there's always a way through it. And I'll show you, I'm somebody who built a multi-million-dollar company with all that stacked against me. So what's anyone else's excuse?
Wow, Joe, that's so much to unpack. Eddie, I know you have some stuff. Eddie, you want to probably jump in. I mean, a lot of stuff with our own business you touched on, like agents of ours were blamed team leaders for not being there enough, or the market not being like this, not like that, this and that. But like Joe said, cause and effect, guys. Own the cause, own the accountability. Eddie, any thoughts so far? Eddie, you want to chime in? Anything? Any questions you have, Edison?
Yeah, man. Joe, first of all, man, thank you for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. Great to meet you, man.
Sure.
No, I mean, some of the things you've been saying, man, I obviously resonate with me because, I mean, that's what I try to kind of, hone in my own personal life and in business, control what you can control. And so one thing that I'm telling myself now is I want to be the change that I want to see, so there's certain things in our companies right now that we need to change, not change, but we need to improve on. And then, yeah. And then one of the things you said is that, well, it starts with me, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing. It starts with me, so like, if I want to see an improvement in my company, well, I got to start with the improvement within myself. So I got to be that change that I want to see in the company, so if I want to be more influential, well, when the company be more influential, well, is Edison influential? If you got to improve on a phone call, as well as Edison leading with by making those phone calls and showing, that it's okay to fail and it's okay to go through those things, and it's just sticking to it every single day, man. So,
I'll say a
yeah,
little
man,
bit.
exactly what you said. Yeah,
I'll
Thank
say
you.
that. You mean we're only as good as who we are, right? I'm constantly
right.
striving to get better. I joined masterminds. I have a coach myself. I have a business coach, right? Here's a problem most people in society is, you may be very good at what you do, right? But most people get stagnant.
Yes, sir.
I have a coach, not because that person's any better than me all around, but they may be better than me in certain areas. I checked my
Right.
ego a long time ago and remain coachable. And that's the thing. Coaching in all areas, regardless of what area that you probably want more input, is probably the most widely thing available, but not used a lot. You know why? Because it takes humility, the ability to ask somebody else for help. It doesn't
Right.
mean that I'm any better than you. It just may mean that I have more experience in certain areas. We do stuff with leadership all the time. I like to strengthen
Yeah.
myself in every area of my life, but
Yeah.
it starts with working with other people that have been successful in that area and getting different ideas and then implementing them into your business, your personal relationships, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too. I'm sorry. I think sometimes too is like a lot of the things that we hear are like, for example, like this segment that we're doing every Wednesday. We're listening to other successful people that are doing their thing,
Right.
and you start to see that there's a pattern. But some people might say, well, this is getting redundant, whatever. But it's like you need to hear it over and over again. Sometimes a lot of the things sound cliche and everything like that, but sometimes you need to hear it. You got to hear from another perspective, someone else go through a different story, and certain things resonate with you differently, depending on what situation you're going through that week. Maybe last week you had a tough week and you had a tough client, and now you hear, hey man, you know what, damn, he went through that, he went through addiction, he went through all of this, man, what am I complaining about? Let me get back on a horse, and let me finish this week, with strong.
Strong.
So sometimes you gotta just hear these things, man. And even though you already know it, you heard it in a book, you heard it on a podcast, but
You have to keep
hearing from
hearing
somebody else's lips.
it.
Yeah. Say, I'm not going to be defined by my mistakes because I will continue to make them, right?
Sure.
But I'm defined in overcoming those mistakes.
That's strong, man. Don't you can't be defined by your mistakes. You will continue to make them, and that's okay. And we have to accept that, right? Michelle, anyone want to jump in right now? I'm gonna continue. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Your story is very powerful, and I look forward to purchasing your book. You mentioned your, when you met your wife now, she opened you up to some things and you had that aha moment, that triggered something in you. Do you remember what, that motivator was, that those turning points, those exercises or whatever it was that really triggered that?
Yeah. For a lot of me, there was a lot of stuff that was still inside of me that, a lot of us get imprinted with things when we're children, from our parents, from our cultures, from whatever it may be, generational type of stuff that, when I look back in my family pattern, there was a lot of men that didn't stay around too long. And I was looking at how, my life was, and here I am, non-existent or, been taken away from my older two children. So I carried that pattern too. And it was like mind blowing to me. There's this thing that we do, it's called anchoring and NLP. A lot of the stuff that the aha moments with my wife was learning more about myself and how I reacted to different things. One of the things you'll read about in the book is I adopted the whole philosophy. I've always been an emotional guy, and emotions worked for me a lot of my life, but then it stopped working, so I instead of being E over I, emotion over intellect, I needed to be more intellect over emotion. So how I worked on that was I developed and thought of first thought wrong. Meaning I'm highly emotional. If you do something I don't like, I'm going to respond. And how I respond initially in my first thought is never really good and it's never right. I learned that about myself. First thought wrong, second thought wrong. Maybe if somebody says something to me at first, I didn't give them an emotional response. I didn't respond right away. What I did was take 30 seconds to let it sink in, let my first thought go, and then answer in a reasonable type of way so my emotions didn't run my life. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
there's many different things. I mean, but I learned that about myself through some of those different modalities that I need to do better. And if I'm going to help somebody else, I need to first help myself. And and that was one way of many that I learned how to help myself to be a more productive member of society in terms of how I handle different situations. And that can be used whether I'm at work dealing with, an employee, or if I had a boss, or even my relationship with my own wife.
Yeah. Yeah. That's deep. Anyone else? Any questions so far? Rafaela, you have good questions typically. Anything on your mind right now? A little later?
Yeah, you can
Yes.
ask. I'm on open book.
Yeah.
I love that. That usually happens with us from the Northeast, right? Amazing story. It's not redundant at all. Like you said, just hearing other people's stories, sometimes you're like, shit, stop your pity party, right? Like get out there and do what you got to do. Now, I did some hypnotherapy work as well last year. The Reiki, the chakras and all of that. Prior to that, I had been doing, and I'm sorry, I have a cold. Prior to that, I had been doing talk therapy and realized quickly, well, for a few years before I found out about hypnotherapy, that just kept repeating all the trauma over and over and over. And so hypnotherapy, I did like a session, I think maybe of like 9 or 10 or something like that. Really sort of like gave me a lot of clarity, right? But since you practice in that, is that something that you suggest continuing? Just to kind of like always have clarity and always make sure that I am aligned with my life purposes.
Yeah. You mean what I do a lot is every client or coaching client that I work with is different. I use a lot of NLP. Traditional therapy, is good. Talk therapy is all right. But my wife actually wrote a book years ago called Get Off the Couch. You know what I mean? Because I don't believe that anybody should be in talk therapy for months on end. I don't believe in NLP. What I really like about NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, it's the roadmap to the mind. You know what I mean? So high language, numb it down to the roadmap of the mind, is the fact that I don't need to know your story in order to help you. I don't have you relive through the trauma to help you. The things that you might be sitting on the couch, talking about for months on end, I'll get done in one session. Do you know what I mean? It's not important because everybody wants to talk about their story because that's their identity sometimes. And sometimes they have a secondary gain to that story. You know what I mean? Hypnotherapy is great for certain things. I love it. Hypnotherapy very relaxes me, brings me clarity like you. But there's a lot of different modalities and unless I was talking to you a little bit more to find out what you wanted to work on, there's a lot of different things that we could use. And there's a lot of different things that me and my wife certify other people in. We have a lot of people that are therapists that are getting certified in NLP because it just adds to their overall value, and change in people is a lot quicker, so I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you talk about this in your book?
I do. So my book is, the first thing first, like most people don't read books. We all know. They may buy a book, but how many of them actually read it cover to cover? I made this book very blunt and to the point. It's not a long book. It's long enough, but I made it to the point so somebody would physically read it. There's stories in there so people can relate, and have rapport, but it gives them hope. It gives them inspiration. And then there's specific things in there that I did that anybody can do and read and do in there. You know what I mean? So tangible stuff that people can take from it and use. So a lot of yes, to answer your question, yes, there's some stuff in there. There's also our contact information. And I don't mind helping anybody around the country, or even putting you in touch with somebody in your area if that's something that's specific. I mean, I wrote this book basically, to help out anybody that needs it, and I just want to be impactful. I mean, that's my purpose in life. Is I don't wish what happened to me on anybody. I mean, I don't. I don't want to erase it, because it made me who I am today. And I like who I am today, and I'm constantly improving. I'm constantly trying to do better. But it's important. My biggest thing is being vulnerable. For me, getting on here and sharing all my dark secrets, I don't care what you ask, I'll answer it. If I'm vulnerable about my situation and the things that I've been through in my life, maybe that's helping somebody who's dying silently.
Sure.
I mean, it's just like or a mastermind or a business conference. How many of us have gone somewhere and everybody always wants to talk about how successful they are, or this or that, or I made this million, or I did this, or I did that. Yeah, okay. I like hearing it. It's nice. I'm glad for you, this and that. But I want to hear people get vulnerable and talk about how the things that have set them back and how they overcome that. I like learning from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
But not many people are open to discuss, and be vulnerable. So my thing is the more I can get out there and talk about, the things that most people don't want to talk about, and be vulnerable, be authentic.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it'll make more people become that way, so we can all learn from each other, and we can all, find success.
Joe, man, what you're saying, man, is just, I'm recording this. I'm going to put it on YouTube one day. Joe, how much is the book?
What's that?
How much is the book? What's the price of the book?
It's going to be on Amazon. I'm selling it for $7.99.
Okay. So whoever wants it, let me know. It's a gift from me to you. So Michelle, I'll pay for your copy. Rafaela, I got you. Anyone else? We have to read it. I'm going to get it too. We'll talk about it afterwards, because we get books and we don't talk about it. But it's on me. Whoever wants it, just text me right now, and I got you guys. Joe, talk to me about what you're doing now. NLP, man, I've been so much into it, and I want to get into it myself to learn about it. So I need some help, man, as you know. What do you guys offer at your company? First of all, what's the name of the company?
So it's two companies under one umbrella. Our first company is called OM, Center for Wellness. We're located in Parkland. It's a holistic, non-invasive wellness company. We do cryotherapy, infrared sauna, neurofeedback. We look at the brain, look at biomarkers, do protocols to make your brain function better. We have cryofacials, cryoslimming, and then underneath that umbrella, we have called Obtaining Mastery. So Obtaining Mastery is our certification company, where we work with people in terms of personal development, whether that's coaching, business coaching, life coaching, you name it, or we help with people getting them certified in NLP. I'm very excited. January 13th to the 15th, we have a weekend lined out. It's called Maximize Your Mindset. And
I'm coming. Yeah. I'm coming this year. I'm looking into the dates. Yeah.
It's Maximize Your Mindset. And the reason why I love this one so much, it's because it's what jump-started me in the beginning. This one isn't solely about like NLP, or it's not solely about, it's a mix of everything at a very reduced cost. So people that want to go, it's a kickstart or a jumpstart to the year. That's why we hold it in January. To work on different goal setting, whether that's somebody that's looking to improve their physical fitness, or want to work on biohacking, or their mind. So it's a 2-day, working on those things, and then a 1 day of a VIP at our center with all of our cryotherapy machines, infrared sauna. I'm looking forward to this event, because I know the change and the kickstart that it had for me, that made me want to get into different things in order to help myself more, which eventually allowed me to help a whole bunch of other people. And you don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be a therapist. This course and the courses we have helped me become a better father. It helped me become a better husband, at the time, a better boyfriend. You know, it helped me become a better human being.
Yeah.
You know, so that one I'm really looking forward to. We offer online courses through Obtaining Mastery. You know, whether or not you want to get certified in NLP, or you want to get certified in hypnosis, or get a better understanding of that stuff. So not only do we offer live courses throughout the year, we offer it online. So people, and when I say online, pre-recorded stuff, so people can go at their own, you know, if you don't have time during the day, you can pick it up here, or do it here, or do it here. You mean, so we've tried to make it easy for everyone across the country, you know, to kind of take a look at and see if it's something good for them. Or we have calls where you can call in and talk to us for free and schedule a 15-minute call on asking about our services, or inquiring and seeing what's a good fit for you.
Awesome, man. So I'm gonna see. I'll share with the team the information about that, the website. Before we get going, let me show you guys a picture of his beautiful family quickly. I don't want to embarrass you, Joe, but
All right.
here you go. You see it, guys? No. Yes.
Yeah,
That's his wife, Marissa, right there. This is from last night, Joe? No. This is older.
Yes, it is from last night.
Okay. That's
So
his oldest son, right?
That's Maritza's grandmother, Maritza. Tyler to the right, my 14-year-old. Winter Lala in the front. You know, she was smiling all night. And then my karate kid on the left, Ryder, and then obviously me.
That's Lala is 3 years old.
She is 3 years old. She'll be 4th on December 4th.
Yes, I
Ryder
remember.
6, and Tyler will be 15 soon. So.
Okay, wow, beautiful family, man. Yeah, I'm gonna have his wife on here. By the way, I talked to her about it already. And as Marissa, I need you to come and join us probably next week or week after.
Yeah.
She's a whole another storm.
Gonna blow your socks off.
Oh, dude,
she sets the bar high in my family.
Yes, that would be nice to have a boss lady.
She's a boss lady for sure. She could command the room, and I mean, she's just amazing.
Yeah, she's
amazing woman.
And I'll tell you what, like, I like to sit here, but more than anything, I give so much credit to my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm very grateful to have her in my life. It brings tears to my eyes thinking about what she's done for me in my life and the relationship that we have. You know, she's my best friend. You know what I mean? And that old saying, my ride or die, my yin and my yang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you know, together, you know, obviously, you know, life throws us all curveballs. You know, it's about learning how to hit that curveball. And regardless of what comes at us in our life, we stand together. But we put a lot of effort into our relationship. You mean, and you know, and it shows. You know, we have daily meetings about business. We have date night twice a week. You know, we try to we have each other's back. And I always say we're like scissors. We're always going the opposite direction. But anyone that gets between us, we'll cut them.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Joe, what's the website? What's your website for your business? I'm going to share with the crew right now.
Yeah, so it's called obtainingmastery.com. Okay. I have 3 of them, if you don't mind me giving. Obtainingmastery.com is for our certifications and personal development. And then we have OM Center for Wellness. If you guys are ever interested or down in the Florida area. And then for my book, if you put in badgebarsbeyond.com, if you put your email in and you scroll down to the bottom, you'll get up my first chapter for free. You can read the first chapter for free.
There you go. Guys, I'm sharing the URL here in the group chat. And Joe, the second link you gave me, what was that? Give it again.
The OM Center for Wellness.
Okay.
That's our wellness place. And then obtainingmastery.com is, you mean, all of our personal development, our coaching, you know, obviously our speaking around the country.
Yeah, the book, man, I went at the website and I'm so excited to read the book, man. Joe, thank you so much for jumping on, man. You're awesome. I love you, bro. You're like a brother to me.
I love you. You know that.
We're gonna have you on a podcast, man. Maybe I'll come see you and I'll do a podcast from there. Or you're in Orlando next time, we'll do a podcast here. But next step will be podcast. And then also, Joe, I'm gonna talk to you down the road. Edison, myself, and Juan, we're doing a mastermind in Orlando. And we're gonna have our top entrepreneur speakers come and have speak, and we'll talk to you about that. That's down the road we're working on. Still a lot to do with you guys. Joe, you're awesome. Give the wife my hug and kiss and family.
I will. And if you can make it down, KB, for January, I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed, man.
Oh
It's
no, yeah.
going to be very inspirational, motivational, and you're going to learn a lot, that, it's going to help you within your business, not only your business but
Personal
also
life, everything.
being a dad, you know what I mean? So
Everything. It's a weekend, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
yeah, 13th to the 15th. So
Yeah.
all is welcome. I'll send you the link. I think you have it anyway, but if you want to sign up soon, because it does fill fast and we can only take so many people.
Maybe we could do someone's just put in here, group trip would be awesome. Maybe that'd be a good idea, guys. We should look into that.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be a good idea. We should look into that.
I'd love to meet all you in person. It'd be great.
You're awesome, Joe. You're awesome.
Guys.
Love you, brother. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yo, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Michelle, what'd you think?
Oh, that was amazing.
Wasn't it?
That was really, really amazing.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a copy of this Zoom too, if I can.
Oh, sure.
I got a friend